So coming in at number 10 is the most recent sighting. During the last weekend in August, fans of Nessie went on a huge hunt for the monster. That's when the 6th so-called sighting of the Loch Ness Monster this year was recorded by a woman who was baffled after seeing a curved creature in the legendary water on August 31st. Fiona Wade claimed that it was like nothing I've seen before and I can only describe as Nessie. She reported seeing something similar to which was spotted by civil servant Alistair Gray on August 26th. Mr. Gray saw 3 odd and seemingly connected shapes near Invermorrison. Miss Wade said her sighting was almost identical to that seen by Mr. Gray and probably in a very similar location. I might add that I was not aware of this sighting on Saturday until returning home this evening. It initially looked like a periscope, but then 2 curved areas followed. It was moving about halfway in the loch, looking roughly over to midway between Foyers and Whitebridge, she said. I've seen deer crossing before, but this was like nothing I have seen before, and I can only describe it as Nessie, as I can't think of any other logical thing it could have been. It was large enough to catch my eye and appeared to leave slight wake behind it, she added. The sighting took place at 10:45 a.m. The water was calm and there was allegedly no nearby boat activity. The sighting, which lasted 30 to 40 seconds, has been accepted by the official Loch Ness Monster sightings register. Number 9. The first sighting. The earliest report of a monster in the vicinity of Loch Ness appears in the Life of St. Columba by Adaman, written in the 7th century AD. According to Adaman, writing about a century after the events described, Irish monk St. Columba was staying in the land of the Picts with his companions when he encountered local residents burying a man by the River Ness. They explained that the man was swimming in the river when he was attacked by a water beast that mauled him and dragged him underwater, despite their attempts to rescue him by boat. Columba sent a follower, Lugin Mako Min, to swim across the river. The beast approached him, but Columba made the sign of the cross and said, "Go no further, do not touch the man, go back at once." The creature stopped as if it had been pulled back with ropes and fled, and Columba's men and the Picts gave thanks for what they perceived as a miracle. Now, believers in the monster point to this story set in the River Ness rather than the loch itself as evidence for the creature's existence as early as the 6th century. Number 8. Aldie McKay. The best known article that first attracted a great deal of attention about the creature was published on May 2nd, 1933 in the Intervest Courier about a large beast or whale-like fish. The article by Alex Campbell, water bailiff for Loch Ness and part-time journalist, discussed a sighting by Aldie McKay of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch while she and her husband John were driving on the A82 April 15, 1993. Now, the Courier in 2017 published excerpts from the Campbell article, which has been titled "Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness." The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized that there was no ordinary Dizen in the depths because, apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. Number 7. Arthur Grant. On January 5th, 1934, a motorcyclist, Arthur Grant, claimed to have nearly hit the creature while approaching Abriacan near the northeastern end of the loch at about 1 a.m. on a moonlit night. According to Arthur, the creature had a small head attached to a long neck. Then the creature saw him and crossed the road back to the loch. Arthur, a veterinary student, described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. He said he dismounted and followed it to the loch, but only saw ripples. He produced a sketch of the creature that was examined by zoologist Maurice Burton, who stated it was consistent with the appearance and behavior of an otter, but I'm not too sure. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Arthur, it has been suggested that this was a faulty observation due to the poor lighting conditions, and paleontologist Darren Nash has suggested that Arthur may have seen either an otter or seal and exaggerated his sighting over time, but I don't care what they say, that drawing he drew of the beast is the Loch Ness Monster, it's not just a simple otter. Number 6. Surgeon's photograph. The surgeon's photograph is the first photo of the creature's head and neck that was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London gynecologist, and was published in the Daily Mail on April 21st, 1934. According to Dr. Wilson, he was looking at the loch when he saw the monster, grabbed his camera, and snapped 4 photos. Only 2 exposures came out clearly. The first reportedly shows a small head and back, and the second shows a similar head in a diving position. The first photo became well known, and the second attracted little publicity because of its blur blurriness. Now for 60 years, the photo was considered evidence of the monster's existence, although skeptics dismissed it. The photo scale was controversial as it often showed cropped, making the creature seem large and the ripples like waves, while the uncropped shot shows the other end of the loch and the monster in the center. The ripples in the photo were found to fit the size and pattern of small ripples rather than large waves photographed up close. Analysis of the original image fostered further doubt, and in 1993 the makers of the Discovery Communications documentary Loch Ness Discovered analyzed the uncropped image and found a white object visible in every version of the photo, implying that it was on the negative. An analysis of the full photo indicated that the object was small, about 2 to 3 feet long, but I don't know though, that just sounds like a cover up to me. Number 5. Dinsdale Film. Aeronautical engineer Tim Dinsdale filmed a hump that left a wake crossing Loch Ness in 1960. Tim, who reportedly had the sighting on his final day of search, described the creature as reddish with blotches on its side. He said that when he mounted his camera, the object began to move, and he shot 40 feet of film. According to Jarek, the object was probably animate, and others were skeptical, saying that the bump cannot be ruled out as being a boat. In 1993, Discovery Communications produced the documentary, again Loch Ness Discovered, with a digital enhancement of the Dinsdale film. A person who enhanced the film noticed a shadow in the negative that was not obvious in the developed film. By enhancing and overlaying frames, he found what appeared to be a rear body of a creature underwater. Before I saw the film, I thought the Loch Ness Monster was a load of rubbish. Having done enhancement, I'm not too sure, they said. Number 4. George Edwards photograph. On August 3rd, 2012, skipper George Edwards claimed a photo he took on November 2nd, 2011 shows Nessie. George claims that he had searched for the monster for 26 years and reportedly spent 60 hours per week on the loch aboard his boat, Nessie Hunter IV, taking tourists for rides on the lake. He said, "In my opinion, it probably looks kinda like a manatee, but not a mammal. When people see 3 humps, they're probably just seeing 3 separate monsters." Other researchers have questioned the photograph's authenticity, and Loch Ness researcher Steve Feldman suggests that the object in the water is a fiberglass hump used in the National Geographic Channel documentary in which George had participated. Now, researcher Dick Rayner said George told him he had faked a photograph in 1986 that he claimed was genuine in the Nat Geo documentary. Although he admitted in October 2013 that his 2011 photo was a hoax, he insisted that the 1986 photo was genuine. Number 3. David Elder video. On August 27th, 2013, tourist David Elder presented a 5-minute video of a mysterious wave in the loch. According to David, the wave was produced by a 15-foot solid black object just under the surface of the water. Now, David from East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire, was taking a picture of a swan in the Fort Augustus Pier on the southwestern end of the loch when he captured the movement. He said the water was very still at the time and there were no ripples coming off the waves and no other activity on the water. Skeptics suggest that the wave may have been caused by a wind gust, but I'd like to think that it was Nessie. Number 2. Peter McNab. On July 29th, 1955, Peter McNab took a photograph at Urquhart Castle that depicted 2 long black humps in the water. The photograph was not made public until it appeared on Constant White's 1957 book on the subject of the Loch Ness Monster, and on October 23rd, 1958, it was published by the Weekly Scotsman. Author Ronald Binns wrote the phenomenon which McNab photographed could easily be a wave effect resulting in 3 trawlers traveling closely together up the loch. Other researchers considered the photograph a hoax, and Roy McCall requested to use the photograph in his 1976 book. He received an original negative from McNab, but discovered it was different from the photograph that appeared in White's book. The tree at the bottom left in White's was missing from the negative, and it is suspected that the photograph was doctored by rephotographing the print. And coming at number 1 is George Spicer. Interest in the monster was sparked by a sighting on July 22nd, 1933, when George Spicer and his wife saw the most extraordinary form of an animal cross the road in front of their car. They described the creature as having a large body, about 4 feet high and 20 feet long, and a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as the 10 to 12 foot width of the road. They saw no limbs, and it lurched across the road towards the loch 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. George described it as the nearest approach to dragon, a prehistoric animal that I have ever seen in my life, and as having a long neck which moved up and down in a manner of a scenic railway. It had an animal in its mouth and a body that was fairly big with a high back, but if there were any feet it must have been the web kind, and as far as a tail I cannot say as it moved so rapidly, and when we got to the spot it had probably disappeared into the loch.
At number 10 we have the Flatwoods Monster, aka Green Monster. So this being has been seen in Flatwoods, West Virginia, and gave it the moniker Home of the Green Monster. It's a 10-foot Frankenstein-like monster in the hills above Flatwoods. It's described as 10 feet tall with a blood-red body and a green face that seems to glow. It was hard to tell by witnesses at the time because of dense mist, but it may also have claws for hands. It was also accompanied by a noxious odor. Now, those that saw it were aged between 10 and 17 and were terrified and ran for their lives. The dog that was with them was frightened too, with the tail between their legs. Now, some say the creature may have come from a UFO that was sighted 5 months before this sighting, and locals who believe say the red-eyed creature could eat people alive and that they better watch out. So, ooh, maybe. Looks very futuristic and scientific if you ask me. At number 9 we have Aswang. Aswang is a name given to various shape-shifting evil spirits in Filipino folklore. People say it stalks prey in the small rural towns of the Philippines. It is a nocturnal hunter specifically. During the night they find prey and prefer children and pregnant women. They appear as regular townspeople by day. An Aswang may have reclusive habits or magical abilities, including the ability to shapeshift into dogs or pigs. They may also walk with their feet backwards, so that's something to look out for. Also, they have a proboscis tongue that they can use to suck blood from their victims. Very gross. And some may make doppelgangers of their victims that return to the victim's home, get sick, and die, to keep it a little more on the DL that they're killing, I guess. Now, some people say the folklore was used as an explanation for murders or infant and mother mortality rates. Others say it's real. On to number 8, Octoman of the Ohio River. So 5 people claim to see it in the winter of 1959. They say they saw a gray-skinned kind of octopus-like creature. One man reported that something came out of the water and that it was just indescribable. Then another man, a truck driver, called the police and said, "It came out of the water, I can't describe it, and I have never seen anything like it before. All I want to do is get out of here and get on to Indianapolis." Okay. The police didn't seem to take it seriously, but anyone who reported it, they were shaken by it. Around the time these reports were popping up, lights that ran down 2 separate sides of a street on 2 different circuits went out, and authorities couldn't figure out why. So some people say that this Octoman might have triggered that. And then a man described only as a scientist in the news allegedly saw a large hulking creature along the rail of the bridge they were crossing. The description: strange grayish creature with a lopsided chest, ugly tentacles, and rolls of fat running horizontally over a bald head. So let me know if you see that description in the Ohio River. Number 7. Staying in Ohio, let's have a look at Loveland Frogman, aka Loveland Lizard. So this lovely lizard or frog stands 4 feet tall. It's a frog humanoid figure spotted in Loveland, Ohio. According to legend, a local man reported seeing 3 frogmen with leathery skin, webbed hands, and feet on the side of the road in 1955. He said he saw one wield what looked like a wand that emitted sparks above its head and then ran away. So in 2016, one of these might have also scared 2 teenagers. They were playing Pokemon Go, as we do, between Loveland Madeira Road and Lake Isabella. They saw a giant frog near the lake that stood up and walked on its hind legs. So was it kind of reclusive after people saw its magic, or what happened? What's with the frogmen? I want to know. Really. On to number 6, Menehune. The Menehune are mythological dwarf or pygmy people that live in forests and hidden valleys of the Hawaiian Islands. Apparently, they're great at crafting too. So the Menehune are usually described as playful and even mischievous. They have distended bellies, they're described as, and they are hairy, muscular, and 2 or 3 feet tall with bushy eyebrows over large eyes. Apparently, they also speak in a low hum. This may be because they are shy creatures that sleep in caves during the day and work at night. As I said before, very mischievous. For example, Gloop Gloop Glop said on the cryptozoology Reddit that they took things from their campsite and returned them later, and possibly also stole a piece of cake. Just like a little bit of stuff interacting. But also other stories go that modern Hawaiians mingled with them and that they started using them for labor. And then after that, the Menehune retreated and hid from society because they were kind of being exploited. But historians also argue just about their actual existence, could be saying that it might just be folklore. Some stories go that children who live near the mountains can see them, but adults cannot. A school teacher in Hawaii said one of the kids she taught could see them, and it scared the child. One time the young girl saw 2 Menehune playing an old game with a lava rock and some sticks, and one looked over at her. When they locked eyes, the little girl was terrified, so she went and got a Hawaiian blessing. Felt better then. Then the school teacher herself saw weird lights popping up, and she was told later those were sacred lights. And then others also reported seeing those lights when they had Menehune, or what they thought were Menehune, interacting with them. So what's up? There's a water bottle company that is Menehune, so maybe they make good water. I don't know. But let's move on to number 5, Beast of Bray Road. So this could be a hairy humanoid creature with canine features. It was seen mainly in the 90s in Delavan and Elkhorn in Wisconsin. So local folklore called it a werewolf, but many cryptozoologists called it more of a Bigfoot because of the scientific issues associated with saying a human turns into a wolf, instead saying, no, maybe it just stays a wolf. Yeah. Also, others even just think it's more of a cryptid canine, and other names are the bear wolf and the indigenous dogman. Also, others commented it may be a black bear with sarcoptic mange. This is possible since there is a thriving black bear population in Wisconsin. Although they're more common in the upper third of Wisconsin, they have an expanding population that's below. And all in all, a person would be like, oh, why is there a black bear here and why does it look kind of like a dog? Look at a picture for yourself, you'll get it. So one person's experience was when they were having a sleepover in the summer. They were playing hide and seek in the dark and saw something huge hunched over in a bush. It didn't appear to be any dog or wolf, as it was much too big to be as small as one of those. Its hind legs were thick and muscular like a man, but tapered at the abdomen and had a head like a wolf or canine. So they asked their dad, what is that scary creature? And when he tried to get a look, he had no idea either, so they all hightailed it inside. As I would too. Even if it is just a black bear with mange. Still something to be afraid of. On to number 4, Beast of Boggy Creek, another beast. And it's also known as the folk beast, or the folk monster, after the town it was reported in. In 1971, a man named Bobby Ford told the town constable that he was attacked at his house by a hairy creature that breathed heavily, had red eyes, and moved very fast. He also described it as 7 feet tall and 3 feet across at the chest. He was treated at a hospital for minor scratches and shock after his alleged attack. His wife, brother, and a hunting companion were also eyewitnesses. Other descriptions of it sound similar to a skunk ape. Those other descriptions said the folk monster smells like a mix of wet dog and skunk, which is the same alleged smell as the skunk ape. The folk monsters also said to swing its arms like a monkey, so maybe a stinky Florida ape. I mean skunk ape. Same thing. It's funny, if you look at pictures of stinky Florida ape, skunk ape comes up, so, you know. On to number 3, Manananggal. So either seen as a man-eating, blood-sucking monster or witch, this Manananggal is described as scary, hideous, and often female. It has wide eyes, long hair, and can sprout fangs and claws. Legends say it also severs its torso and sprouts bat wings to fly off and find its next prey. Its name comes from the Tagalog word tangal, which means to remove or separate. It splits its body to transform and then find its victims. Similar to the aswang, it preys on people who sleep and pregnant women. It is also said to target grooms since it may have been a woman that was left at the altar. So similar to the folklore of vampires, they are said to detest garlic and salt, and so to defeat one you simply find their weaker, lower half and sprinkle some garlic and salt on it. Just salt bay it. Done. But let's move on to number 2, Mokele Mbembe. So the name means one who stops the flow of rivers, and that's because it's probably pretty huge. It's said to be a cryptid that resembles a brontosaurus, and Ivan Sanderson, a biologist, even documented its existence. So maybe not all dinos were wiped out by a meteor. Who knows? It's been spotted in the Congo, and while some say it's like its lookalike the brontosaurus, which was most likely a herbivore, some say it's allegedly a carnivore, with some saying it eats hippos. Hippos. Also, anything that can eat hippos is something to fear. I know hippos, they look really cute, but they're so dangerous. They have run as fast as 30 kilometers an hour over short distances and are very aggressive. Their teeth are huge, and they could crush you to death under their weight. So, if Mokele Mbembe can take them on, you should watch out too. All I'm saying. And if they're running away from it, you could be crushed while they're running away from the Mokele Mbembe. Also, it's just a fun word to say. At number 1, we have Grootslang, or Grootslang. Just roll the R. The Grootslang, also known as the Groot Slang, is Afrikaans or Dutch for big snake, because it is one big snake. It is a legendary or mythological cryptid that allegedly lives in the Richtersveld in South Africa. It is said to either be a huge elephant-like creature with a serpent's tail or a humongous snake with an elephant's face and gems for eyes. Either way, very creepy. It's claimed to lure elephants into its cave, aka the Wonder Hole or the Bottomless Pit. Sound very different. So the cave is said to connect to the sea that is 40 miles away, and it's said to have many diamonds. The thing is, this beast is in there with those precious gems, so might not go for the diamonds. Some say it likes gems and explorers can bargain for their freedom by offering enough loot to the Grootslang, sorry. But either way, I'd say don't go out hunting for it.
In our number 10 spot, we have the 1941 sighting. It was December in 1941, and 2 brothers by the names of Callum McFarlane Barrow and Patrick thought that they must have been dreaming. They saw a large creature in the loch near Fort Augustus. Much to their surprise, they ended up seeing the same creature again later that day. They absolutely think that they saw the Loch Ness as it looked nothing like anything they had ever seen before. Apparently in 2018, Callum explained that sightings of the monster were much more common at that time. In our number 9 spot, we have the sighting of 1961. It was May in 1961, and a man named George Coots was with 3 of his friends, and they were driving to Foyers on the south side of the loch at 8 p.m. in the evening. In case you don't know, loch means lake. They pulled over and looked into the loch, aka a lake, where the Loch Ness was known to be in, when they saw what looked like an elephant's back. They tried to flag down a passing car so that they could grab some more witnesses, but it wouldn't stop. They decided to not tell anyone, and George finally came out with the story in September of 2019. Wow, that's a long time to be holding that story in. In our number 8 spot, we have the sighting of May 1969. It was May of 1969, and a man named Fred Millwood was traveling towards Inverness when he spotted what he described as a 10 to 12 foot long creature traveling across the loch at about 4 miles per hour. He described the creature as if it was an upturned boat and there was no head in sight. When the creature was about 200 to 300 meters from the other side of the lake, it vanished. Fred waited for about a half an hour, but nothing occurred after that. Ah, too bad. Poor Fred. In our number 7 spot, we have the sighting of October 1969. In October of 1969, 2 men by the names of Peter Mackenzie and his uncle, Peter, were out fishing in a small boat at the north side of the loch. While fishing, they experienced 2 sightings of old Nessie. The first time it appeared, they saw something under the water that was coming at them like a speedboat from the direction of the Clansman Hotel. They then realized that it was definitely not an underwater boat, and its shape appeared much different before it disappeared. Then it resurfaced and headed for the middle of the lake, where they were able to see it in profile. Peter described it as if it had the color and shape of an elephant. It then disappeared under the water, and their boat was rocked so hard by the waves from it. In our number 6 spot, we have July 1987. In July of 1987, Aaron O. Fodhagen was visiting from Ireland and riding the bus on an overcast but windy day. Aaron says that as they were coming up to Ivor Morriston, she was looking out into the lake from the bus and saw what looked like a giant boulder in the middle of the lake. She said that she knew that there were no boulders in the lake, as it's a glacial lake and the sides go straight down. She reported and is quoted as saying, "The object was brown in color and the swell of the waves only came up halfway on the object, so I estimated that it was at least 5 feet out of the water. The length looked more than the height, maybe 5 to 8 feet long. I could not say it was moving as the bus was moving. I got the impression it was stationary. I watched the object for less than 2 minutes, but it felt like eternity. That was the effect it had on me. Stunned I was. My sighting ended when the bus got near Ivor Morriston." She then went on to speak about how she returned the next day, and of course the boulder was gone. In our number 5 spot, we have the sighting of June 1989. On the 25th of June 1989, Mrs. Judy Chaffin was visiting Scotland from Vancouver Island when she caught the most extraordinary thing on her camera. The story is that she caught a 10-foot long animal with a basketball-sized head zigzagging across Urquhart Bay at 4:45 p.m. in the afternoon. The sighting was verified as an unknown animal by Dr. Gordon Williamson, who is a marine biologist in the area. The locals, of course, were convinced it was Nessie. I wish I had that footage to share, but as you can imagine, this was from 33 years ago, and so it is probably on a VHS tape lost in a dusty attic at this point. In our number 4 spot, we have the sighting of 1990. 1990 was the year of a few sightings, and almost every year after this, there are many sightings reported. The most notable sighting was from April 26, 1990. 2 men by the name of Trevor Davis and Jimmy McIntyre, both from a city in Scotland called Inverness, reported seeing a huge creature circling in the water near the mouth of River Foyers. They have stated that its neck rose 6 feet out of the water. In our number 3 spot, we have the sighting of 1999. It was February 22nd, 1999, and a tourist spotted Nessie out of the water fully for the first time since June 1963. Apparently, Nessie was spotted out of the water on the shores of Loch Ness by an American visitor. The sighting was at 8:30 in the evening between Doris and Foyers. The creature was reported as being about 10 to 15 meters long with a very long neck. Apparently, as the man approached the creature, it quickly went back into the water and out of sight. Wow. I truly wonder how these sightings are verified, as it's always possible that this man was, on an illicit drug, or that maybe he just wanted some attention, but then it's also possible that he could have actually witnessed an ancient creature that seemingly picks and chooses who it reveals itself to. In our number 2 spot, we have the sighting of March 17th, 2021. This sighting comes equipped with a video, so I'm gonna let you decide on this one. This is a video from a farm looking upon the loch on March 17th, 2021, a St. Patrick's Day sighting. In this video, you clearly see a dark shadow pop up in the water, and you watch it move across the lake. As it perhaps turns to the side, we get quite the profile shot of it, and it appears to be long. Now, this is a lake. There are no long or big sharks in this lake, so this is quite a notable sighting. Whether the shadow is a large dark fish is debatable, because it is quite long at one point, and it is quite a dark shadow. Does that look like a fish to you? Would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. In our number 1 spot, we have the October 19th, 2021 sighting. On October 19th, 2021, not too long ago, Erin Fagan captured something extraordinary on her webcam. She's a bit of a veteran when it comes to filming Nessie, and has a YouTube channel with a variety of recordings that she's made. Quite a lot of them leave you thinking, what is that? This one in particular is one of them. In this video, you see an extremely long and dark something in the lake, and towards the end of the video, you see it go deeper into the water, and then when a boat starts to come into view in the lake, the creature completely disappears. The creature looked to be at least a couple of feet or more. The video is so interesting, and I hate that it's not more clear.
Number 10. Very recently, in September of 2022, for those of you watching from the future, which, by the way, how's it going there? If you're watching this in the future, let me know in the comments. Anyway, in September, prominent paranormal scientist and Nessie expert Ron Halliday gave an interview to The Mirror, where he stated his belief that the Loch Ness Monster is from a parallel universe that we just may not be able to perceive. I'll be talking about the insane physics of parallel universes in a little bit, so stick around for that if you want to see me totally nerd out. He stated that many of the sightings and her disappearance thereafter may be explained by certain people being more psychically sensitive and picking up on things that are existing in multiple universes at once, or even something from the past. He went on to say that some people may even walk through portals to another dimension without realizing it, and that is where they may have seen the Loch Ness Monster and other cryptids. With so many sightings across hundreds of years, it's beginning to seem more and more likely that she can actually travel through time and space, and may be a being from another dimension. But the discussion of portals actually brings us to our number 9, the Upside Down. One of the many ways that parallel universes are often theorized as operating is that they exist at the same time as ours, but with very minor differences, running next to each other like the branches of a tree. However, this is not the only theory. Scientists are now discovering that there may actually be an upside down, like what is described in Netflix's Stranger Things, a universe that is the exact opposite of ours, existing on top, or rather below, our own, and we may have found a portal to enter it. Scientists at NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA for short, have been conducting experiments with very interesting results. Their antenna is located where there is the least amount of radio interference so that they can measure as accurately as possible. And they've found that a constant, quote, wind of particles arrives on Earth from outer space. There are subatomic particles called neutrinos detected, some of which have very low energy and mass that is close to zero, and they can pass right through the Earth. But anything larger or with higher mass gets stopped by the matter of the Earth. Because of this, we should only be seeing these high energy particles coming down from space, but instead they're also seeing some come up from the Earth. And this implies that the particles are actually reversing through time. And this suggests the existence of a parallel universe where time runs backwards and the world exists in opposition with itself. It would have been created at the same time as the Big Bang, with one universe running forward through time and one backwards. After all, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Very interesting stuff. And maybe that's where Nessie exists, traveling forward and backward through time, and that's why sightings have dwindled over the years, and we may have just found a way to enter it. it. Number 8, mirror dimension. Now before I tell you about this next one, give this video a like if you're enjoying it so far. It really helps us out. Now without spoiling anything for you, in Stranger Things, one of the ways to access the Upside Down is through portals, some of which exist in water, and scientists may have found one on the sea floor. And I think that if another one of these exists in Loch Ness, we may have found our answer on where Nessie goes when no one is watching. About 2 kilometers below the ocean's surface in the Gulf of California, marine researchers have been conducting experiments and collecting data from microbes on the sea floor. Way down below, they discovered something incredible, a mirror pool where on the bottoms and inside of fissures of some rocks there are microbes that move in very strange ways and create a perfect reflection of what is around them. Some of this is caused by individual ecosystems forming near hydrothermal vents that shoot out all sorts of crazy chemicals and microbes from under the earth. The difference between what collects on the edges of these fissures and in the center is baffling scientists, and some believe that you may actually be able to send something through it into the earth, and that may be a way into another dimension. Perhaps the Upside Down? Is this where the Loch Ness Monster goes? Number 7. Alright, we need to actually discuss a few sightings of Nessie from over the years, because they actually help explain where and when she appears and disappears. Sightings have been reported since 564 CE, when St. Columba allegedly had to compel a strange creature to not attack one of their followers. But reports stopped until 1527, when Duncan Campbell sighted a terrible beast on the shore of the loch. There were more sightings here and there, but no real evidence until 1933, when Hugh Gray took a picture of what appears to be the hump and fin of our lake-dwelling friend. When it was published in a local newspaper, it was accompanied by a note from Kodak, the film company, who stated that the negatives had not been altered in any way. It's strange that all of the pictures of Nessie and other cryptids are so blurry and far away, especially since we all have 4K cameras in our pockets now. But maybe she's just smarter than we think, or she can only appear on film and not digital, or perhaps she really does fade into another dimension. But there is a live camera set up on Loch Ness if you want to watch out for her yourself. Number 6, drop in reports. For the 90 years that Loch Ness Monster sightings have been recorded, there were always multiple sightings yearly, and even if some of them turned out to be a hoax, there were still reports. But 2013 was the first year that there were no sightings at all. This came after a string of years with declining numbers of sightings, so it seems a trend was forming, and she had decided to spend less and less time on our plane of existence. But since 2013, reports have skyrocketed, increasing every year to nearly 20 in each of the past few years. Some of this is because of the webcam system that's been set up, combined with the stay-at-home isolation of the past few years. More people are on the lookout, and more sightings have happened. Strange wakes occur in the water, humps are spotted rising out, and strange movements on the shore are just some of the things captured on the webcam. Number 5, prehistoric evidence. Now, one of the main theories about what Nessie may be is that she's actually a form of plesiosaur, a sea-dwelling dinosaur that supposedly went extinct about 66 million years ago, along with the rest of the dinosaurs. These were characterized as carnivorous creatures with 4 fins, long necks, and humpbacked bodies who fed on fish and other sea creatures. They were thought to have existed only in seawater, but in 2021 in the Sahara Desert, paleontologists found new evidence of their existence in freshwater. In what was once an ancient freshwater riverbed, bones were found of small plesiosaurs that must have adapted to move from the ocean and into river and lake systems. And if this could happen in one place, what would stop them from doing the same to enter an ancient river system in Europe and eventually become what we call the Loch Ness Monster? Perhaps if they couldn't physically travel there because a little thing called land was in the way, they traveled through another river, one created and formed from space-time. Speaking of space-time, our number 4 entry concerns how it can be bent and morphed to do all sorts of crazy things. When Albert Einstein created his theory of special relativity, he explained that the speed of light was a constant, about 300,000 kilometers per second, or 186,000 miles per second for my American friends, and that this constant could be observed throughout space and time. But the only way that this could be constant between the two simultaneously is if space and time were linked. So, as someone in a rocket approaches the speed of light, they would perceive time to be slower and the lengths of objects to be shorter, compared to someone moving at a much slower speed. So in theory, if you could find a way to bend space-time, either through some advanced technology or perhaps perhaps some mystical energy. You could travel incredible distances or through time near instantly. Along with this, the existence of dark matter, which is a strange form of matter that is invisible, yet incredibly dense and makes up 5 times more of the universe than normal matter does. It can actually bend gravity and space-time around itself. Is there a large pocket of dark matter in Loch Ness that allows Nessie to bend space around it and move to another time? Perhaps she is actually a dinosaur from the past, unwittingly traveling around and trying to find her way home. Number 3, the Mandela effect. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Mandela effect, but I'll give a brief summary. Essentially, it's a phenomenon of mass misremembering of events, such as the one where it got its name, where before his death in 2013, many people remembered Nelson Mandela having already died in the 1980s. There are countless examples of these collective memory lapses, like Looney Tunes being spelled with O's instead of a U, the Monopoly Man having a monocle, or other small changes in our reality, a glitch in the Matrix, if you will. Lots of people think these changes in their memory prove the existence of many parallel universes where each small change creates an entirely new universe, and maybe that's where Nessie exists, as a collective memory from another universe that we no longer reside in. But the theory of multiple universes existing at once is not the one that I find the most plausible. Number 2, the Big Bounce. Now, this is personally one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to theoretical physics, which doesn't sound exciting, I know, but I promise you it's really cool. When the universe was created in the Big Bang, all the particles and energy of the universe were shot out into empty space from a singular point at incredible speeds. This theory suggests that as the universe expands, space-time and gravity will both be pulling against it as it expands, eventually reaching a point of equilibrium in a few billion years. And when this happens, one of 2 things will occur. Either the universe will continue to expand and tear space-time, causing the eventual death of the universe, or what I find to be more likely is the forces pulling against the universe will draw it all the way back inwards down to a single point, only to bounce off again, creating another Big Bang and expanding. This is how parallel universes may function, not because there are many existing at once, but because this universe has and will continue to exist an infinite number of times, expanding and contracting, having minor differences each time. This is where Nessie could come into this, because perhaps she existed in one version of this universe, but not another, and some people are only seeing the echoes of where she once was. I think that the number 1 spot on this list of evidence may actually be the sheer lack of evidence. Now, I know this may be contradictory and not particularly good science, but we're talking about a mythological beast here, so we need to take it a little easy on our expectations. While there have been so many sightings, images captured, and even sounds recorded of the monster, no one has captured it well enough on film or gotten close enough to call it true evidence. Scientists have used sonar, radar, trawled the bottom of the lake, and performed all sorts of experiments to see if it exists and found nothing. Yet there are still so many reports that come up each year, and some of them are pretty convincing, and it makes me wonder if Nessie is smarter than we think. Perhaps even a being of greater intelligence that outwits us and moves between universes, baffling humans in each of them, just for a good time. With so many sightings but so little solid evidence, the Loch Ness Monster truly remains a mystery, and it may just be one that's bigger than we ever imagined.
Number 10. Mothman. So the Mothman is this big old flying dude with wings and red eyes. Floats around and you know what? Boo! Mothman sucks. Look, okay, I grew up in the area where this cryptid is supposedly haunted, and you know what? Yeah, I did see him. Big old spooky red eyes flying around doing whatever. Oh no, he was near a bridge when it collapsed. He precipitated disaster. The only thing that actually happened to me when I saw him was just my house flooded, I failed on my final test, and my girlfriend broke up with me. I mean, who even cares, right? God, Mothman is such a loser. Oh, I'm a big scary moth. Look at me. Oh, I'm mothing it up. No, I'm not bitter. Shut up. Number 9. Demon Cat. Good old Demon Cat. Making its home in Washington, D.C., this fiendish feline is known to stalk the White House and the United States Capitol building. Supposedly in the 1800s, cats were brought to the Capitol building as a means of combating the rat problem. And while they couldn't get all the politicians, some legends claim that one cat remained, stalking the basements. It can only be seen prior to elections and other tragedies in Washington, supposedly having been seen before the assassinations of JFK JFK and Lincoln. Why has this kitty stuck itself in the minds of those who have seen it? Well, apparently when spotted, this cat actually grows to massive proportions, leaping at its viewer before just vanishing. Now, some blame the Capitol Police Force's poor screening for alcoholics at the source of this misunderstanding, as when viewed from the floor, anything might appear large. But as one guard was apparently taken by a heart attack upon seeing the categorical size of such the beast, who can really say for sure? Number 8. Sewer alligators. Taking a big ol' bite out of the big ol' apple are our guys in green, the sewer gators. According to the New York Times, there's actually a massive problem with folks trying to keep alligators as pets within the city. But as for the ones that aren't caught, what might happen to their pets once they've outgrown their owners? Now, legend has it that in the 1930s an infestation began, gators making their home within New York's stinky subsystems. Supposedly, they've clashed with the NYPD, who claimed to have vanished their bescaled opponents, though sightings have continued throughout the modern days. Likely their greatest impact was the inspiration for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though I might just be making that up. Number 7. The Honey Island Swamp Monster. Better known as Le Bête Noire, this humanoid horror is reported to be located within the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana. Described as walking on 2 legs and 7 feet tall, Le Bête Noire is reported to be preceded by a foul odor. Now, casts have been taken of its feet, showing a total of 4 toes, which indicates that it may not be related to humans or apes, as some legends claim that a crashed circus train may have allowed for a band of chimpanzees to escape into the wild, where they probably adapted to their environment and fell into legend. Knowing how circuses generally treat their animals, good for them. Number 6. Lava bear. Discovered in the area surrounding South Central Oregon, the lava bears are a group of extremely small bears that have been observed emerging from the lava beds common to the area. Several hunters have claimed to have caught these ferocious beasts, which initially appeared to be bear cubs but were in fact fully grown adults. Once news of this made rounds, the hunt for the bears was on, and in 1923, one was caught by a US Forest Service trapper by the name of Alfred Andrews. Andrews was offered a reward for the bear's body, but turned it down in favor of parading it around the country, making quite a chunk of change on the side, until his partner stole the bear and vanished. Several other bears have been captured, and in 1924, one of the local high schools decided that its mascot would become the lava bear. It is also still their mascot. Seriously. Number 5. The black dog. Yeah, I put this in here to contrast the demon cat because I, think they should be friends. The black dog is a demonic creature originating in Europe, most famously in the story The Hound of the Baskervilles, but it's also been cited in the States. A beast with burning red eyes, W.H.C. Pynchon wrote, "If you meet the black dog once, it shall be for joy. If twice, it shall be for sorrow, and the third time shall bring death." Demonic dogs have been spotted in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and truckers have a saying where if you see one, it's time to pull over or a crash will be the least of your concerns. Number 4. Ludwig the Bloodsucker. Back to New York, and it turns out that gators aren't the only things looking to take a bite out of streetwalkers. Described as a 3-foot-tall German man, Ludwig the Bloodsucker is reported to be a local vampire. Now, legends claim that he was too minute to take down a German man and too ugly to seduce a German woman, so he just booked it over to the States for easier pickings. Haunting the Bowery Street, several victims were left alive but incessantly mocked by the vampire, usually for their drunken stupor. Local newspapers reported about the man's habits, locating him as a German tailor by day. There are apparently even interviews where he goes on record to claim that blood is healthy and good eating. Mixed with the way that immigrants were treated at the time, I doubt that went over well. Number 3. Two-Toed Tom. Listen, there's a lot of gators in the States, but Two-Toed Tom might be the most famous. The story goes that this 14-foot alligator could be identified for having lost all but 2 toes to a trap, and would eat farmers and their livestock. Now, fed up with the beast, many brave men would band together to hunt the reptile, but whether it was ex-military marksmen or dynamite-brandishing pharmacers, none could destroy this devil. Bored with Alabama, the gator was reported to have left its hunting grounds, apparently settling for Florida, where there would be more failed attempts to take down Two-Toes. 50 years later, a series of two-toed tracks were discovered near his old old hunting ground, and the legend of Two-Toed Tom marches on. Number 2. Hodag. Now this strange creature made its home in Wisconsin, described as possessing the head of a frog, the face of an elephant, short legs with massive claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long spiked tail. Reported by land surveyor and trusted member of the community Eugene Shepard, he rounded up a group of brave hunters to capture the beast, an attempt which apparently required the usage of dynamite. Sending a picture of its remains to the media, they declared the safety of its primary food source for all time to come, the white bulldog. Thank goodness that the white bulldog may now roam Wisconsin once more. Alright, fine, it was a big hoax, and it was a really good one. Good enough that the local town decided to build a statue in honor of the beast. They also hold a festival in its name, which I've actually been to. But the effort that went into this hoax was actually quite extensive, and when Shepard had claimed to capture the creature, he even displayed it using a puppet show, piloting a wooden facsimile of the beast. Number 1. The Jersey Devil. Here's a real classic, the Jersey Devil, known for living in Jersey. Well, okay, taste and location aside, this creature is a sight to behold, a horse-like demon with bat wings and a forked tail. It was apparently born human, the 13th offspring of Mother Jane Leeds, who had cursed the unborn upon discovery of her pregnancy. Once born, the demon was revealed in all its horror, and gave everyone in the room a highly motivated beatdown before yeeting itself up and out the chimney. There have been sightings of this creature throughout history, one of the most notable viewers being Napoleon's brother. Seriously. This creature has also been reported to be capable of surviving direct cannon fire, and in 1909 there were a slew of sightings which set off a search for the fabled devil. A search which mostly ended in vain, even though there was a $10,000 reward that was promised for live capture. And of course, someone then tried to submit a kangaroo with fake claws and bat wings. Anyways, it's just another reason not to go to Jersey, and it's just about as good of one as any.
Starting us off at number 10, the Kraken. The subject of many a superstitious sailor, this creature originated from Scandinavian folklore and is depicted as an aggressive, cephalopod-like creature capable of destroying entire ships and dragging sailors to their doom. Legends say that the creature could even devour a whole ship and its crew in entirety, and if that didn't work, it would swim around the ship in circles to create a whirlpool, sucking the ship down into the deep, dark depths of the sea. Though it seems like a death sentence, many sailors would take the risk and approach the beast, as it said huge schools of fish would surround the creature, and I guess they wanted to take their chances. And now, one Reddit user, Brave and Butter, believes they saw one on Google Maps. Their post says, quote, "I'm sure I'm not the first to find this, but it seems to be some sort of kraken. The spot in question is near a place called Deception Island in the Antarctic region, and they theorize that the dark spot on the bottom left is actually the giant squid-like creature from a sailor's nightmare." I mean, to be fair, we do know of actual giant cephalopods that have been caught, though not the size told in tales of the Kraken, but still, there could be some truth here. What do you think? Next up at number 9, Kentucky Beast. Off Highway 119 in Bell County, Kentucky, a few friends posted online saying they saw an inhuman creature right where, quote, "the Christmas store used to sit on 119 outside of Callaway on the right side of the road in the field with all the white cows," which sounds like a very specific location. According to the Google Maps details, the cryptid was some kind of large gray creature with the head of a man and unusually sized paws that left huge prints in the area. So yeah, not something you plan to see on the highway. According to the description, some people think they could have seen some kind of dog man, but honestly, who knows? From the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like they stuck around long enough to get a good look at this mysterious beast, and you know what?
I don't blame them. Whatever it is, hopefully it comes in peace. Next up at number 8, Mothman. The legend of Mothman began in 1966 West Virginia after a group of grave diggers working late spotted an incredibly strange creature soaring over their heads, jumping from tree to tree. But it didn't stop there. Soon others were reporting a similar creature, described as measuring 7 feet tall, with beady red eyes and a wingspan of 10 feet, able to travel at incredibly fast speeds. Which, truthfully, kind of sounds like a demon if you ask me, but let's hope not. Now, there wasn't much evidence to back up this terrifying cryptid until one Reddit user posted it to a Mothman subreddit with a Google Maps image that appears to be the Mothman in plain sight in a forest. Many of the comments on this post claim how terrifying this is and how this proves once and for all that the cryptid is real. But I'll be honest, I might need a little more convincing. While this image certainly looks like a perfect match to the Mothman, I must admit it does kind of look like someone is wearing a suit. But hey, maybe I am wrong, and maybe we should be very worried that someone finally captured evidence of this terrifying creature. Coming in at number 7, fairies. Now, some of you who aren't familiar with fae might be asking yourself at this point, what could these adorable little creatures be doing on a list for terrifying cryptids? Well, unlike what Disney would have you believe, fairies come in many different forms and can be very scary creatures, and messing with any kind of fae is definitely a very bad idea. Now, luckily for this next person, they don't seem to have angered whatever it is they saw, but I can only imagine how terrifying it would have been in the moment. Reportedly, a 15-year-old boy was out for a walk when he spotted 2 strange creatures fishing. The cryptids were very short, unlike the size of any human he had ever seen, dressed in all green, wore brown shoes, and were talking to each other in Gaelic before they noticed him and vanished almost immediately. After they disappeared, the boy got closer to the spot he saw them and found a small pipe left behind that, according to him, disappeared later that night after he had safely locked it away. According to him, no one in his family took it, and he knows the box was locked. So do you think the leprechauns could have returned for their pipe? Let's just hope they didn't leave any kind of evil curse on him if they did. Coming in at number 6, a mysterious creature. Posted online in June of 2022, this sighting was not just creepy and inexplicable to the general public, it even became a news story across the entire country. Apparently, this strange creature that is being called Wolfman was caught on camera walking around the Amarillo Zoo in Texas, and no one can figure out what the heck it is. According to city officials, it is real and not doctored footage, but that kind of just makes it even more concerning. It doesn't appear to be any kind of animal we're familiar with, and it is certainly not a human either. At least, no one thinks so at this point. This UAO, or unidentified Amarillo object, as it's being called, has people up in arms, with some saying it's a chupacabra, the absolutely horrific folklore creature that's said to live in the southern United States and attack and devour livestock. But that's not the only theory circulating the internet. There are conspiracy theories that it's an evil alien coming to Earth, that it's a skinwalker, or that it's even some kind of Sasquatch. But honestly, I just hope that whatever it is, it's not looking to hurt anyone. Coming in at number 5, Mayaka skunk ape. While Bigfoot tends to get all of the fame in the cryptid world, there are other similarly hairy creatures that could be roaming around the United States as we speak. According to one Google Maps location, there may have been a sighting of the skunk ape near the Mayaka River in Sarasota, Florida. According to details online, in October of 2000, a senior woman sent a letter to the local police station accompanied by some photos of what could only be described as a large ape. In her letter, she reportedly claimed that the skunk ape was 6 or 7 feet tall, but would crouch over, had an ungodly smell, and would sneak into her property to steal her apples. However, her true fear was that the cryptid could have some kind of disease that could spread to her family, as she routinely had her grandkids over to play in the backyard. Unfortunately, police were not able to deny or confirm the existence of the mysterious creature, but but that hasn't stopped locals from trying to unravel the mystery to this day. Coming in at number 4, a giant fly. As far as terrifying creatures go, flies are not generally the first thing that comes to mind. That being said, this story might have changed my mind. One alleged witness contacted someone through the website The Cryptid Wiki, claiming they'd seen an insect that looked like a horsefly that was almost 2 feet from head to tail. They say they were in the garden in Serbia in 2015 when they heard a horrible, loud buzzing and briefly saw a huge horsefly pass them in the middle of the night, which sounds like something from my nightmares. According to the witness, quote, "I saw it probably for 6 seconds after it flew past me and it disappeared when it flew behind my garden fence. I checked and nothing was there. The bug was big and black and I couldn't see it very well, but it made a loud buzzing noise. The weather was cloudy and it was night. My mother and sister were there too and they saw it and were shocked." Now, if what they saw was real, then it could be so dangerous. I mean, the bite from a regular horsefly is bad enough. Imagine how bad it could be if the thing was 2 feet long. Coming in at number 3, Bigfoot. Out of any of the cryptids out there, I would venture to say that the hairy Sasquatch is likely the one that most people claim to have witnessed. I mean, practically everyone and their neighbor claim to have seen the creature walking through the woods of North America. Dating back further than recorded history, this man-like ape has been a household legend with nearly 10,000 recorded sightings throughout the United States. And with just a quick search, you'll literally find hundreds of photos and articles aiming to prove Bigfoot's existence. Arguably, the most famous evidence we have is Roger Patterson and Bob Grimland's 1967 film, where the alleged creature is seen walking along the side of a creek in plain day, and though we still don't know if the authenticity of the photo stacks up, we've also never been truly able to debunk it entirely. Of the many stories of alleged sightings, including some saying they were captured and held captive by the creature and others claiming to have spotted the Sasquatch roaming about the woods, one of the only sightings you can find on Google Maps is located in Seven Chutes, Canada, where a photo of a large, broad-shouldered humanoid creature covered in hair shocked everyone who stumbled upon it. However, considering these things roam around the woods, I highly doubt it's still in the same spot as it was captured on Google. Coming in at number 2, Lake Monster. If you grew up in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia, then you are no stranger to this mythological sea creature. But could it be that there is more to Ogopogo than we thought? The tale of the creature dates back thousands of years, with the Salish indigenous people having passed along stories about a spirit of the lake, which was later turned into what we now call Ogopogo after white settlers landed and began altering the stories. Described as a serpentine creature with smooth skin and a length of up to 50 feet, it's said to move at incredible speeds, using its powerful tail as a propeller to speed through the lake. The first alleged sighting dates back to 1872 by a woman named Susan Allison, who was the first white settler to live in the region, but she has not been the only one to come forward with so-called evidence. In the 1980s, a tourist agency offered a cash reward for anyone with proof of the beast, and many flocked with pictures and videos trying to claim the reward. Then later in 2008, a photographer by the name of Sean Valoria captured several photos of something peculiar he saw in the water, which he described as having humps measuring 18 to 20 feet long. After inspection by many local experts, they confirmed that it didn't look like any known animal to the lake, but there also wasn't enough evidence to confirm the existence of Ogopogo from Sean's photo. Since then, many mysterious sightings have popped up on Google Maps, so I guess people will just have to keep returning to the lake for more proof. And last up in our number 1 spot, the Ottawa Angel. This next one comes from a blog post, and I'm just gonna let this man tell you his story firsthand, cause man oh man, it is wild. Quote, "I lived right beside the highway on ramp and was on my way rather quickly on that sunny yet windy fall day. As usual, I put some good music on and proceeded to enjoy the approximately 1 hour long scenic drive to Ottawa. I rather liked and traveled this route quite often. It was an uneventful trip which had passed rather quickly as I began to approach the Ottawa city limits at about 12:20 p.m. At this point, in broad daylight, without a cloud in the the sky, I caught my eye up ahead in the distance on what at first came to mind as a very large seagull due to its white and gray appearance. But he soon realized it was something much stranger than a seagull. Quote, I then noticed what looked like outstretched arms connected to a human-looking torso with a head and what I call legs, but which in fact more closely resembled a long serpent-looking tail flowing behind this winged being at the time. I do realize how strange this may sound, but I assure you that it is unfortunately all too real. He did not appear friendly or welcoming, and I will never forget the last seconds that I could see him and his ominous glare. So what could this thing have been? Some kind of angel or some kind of demon perhaps? I guess we'll never know. But if it ever does return, we know where to find it.